Hello, welcome to Senior Living Today. I'm your host, Scott Buchanan, CEO for the Ohio Masonic Home. Each episode, we take a closer look at the complicated world of senior living and help you understand what kind of services to look for, what questions to ask, and what you can do now to financially prepare for your future. As you all may know, there isn't a handbook or a how-to guide when it comes to navigating the complex world of senior living. So guess what? We're here to help. This episode is the first of a two-part show all about the financial questions you may have around senior living. Today we're going to speak with three people who will share their personal journey on finding the right senior living community for themselves or a loved one. Each of them will share with us what they needed to do financially ahead of time to prepare to move to this senior living community. Next month, our guests will speak and talk about how to handle choosing the appropriate senior living community when they're in the midst of dealing with a family crisis. We'll uncover all the financial questions you may have and how to navigate the process quickly and easily. After break, I will be joined by Bill Selsom, a community member of the Springfield Masonic community in Springfield, who is going to share his story and his personal journey of finding a senior living community to call his home. Please stay with us.
Come ride with us.
Darn kids!
Senior living is changing. We should know because we're changing it. Visit the Springfield Masonic community.
All right, Mary, we're gonna pick out your outfit for today, okay?
Oh, I liked that.
Hey, what do you think about the Abe over there? Think I ought to get its digits?
Absolutely. Good morning, Faye.
Hi, John.
Are you on those filters again?
Yep.
At Springfield Masonic Community, you're more than just a job title. To start your rewarding career, visit us at ohiomasonichome.org today.
What word would I use to describe living in the Springfield Masonic community? Epic.
I've got mad skills. My crew is legit.
Darn kids.
When I don't feel like being active, I chill.
Springfield Masonic Community, empowering all seniors who are young at heart.
Welcome back to Senior Living Today. I'm your host, Scott Buchanan. I'm joined by Bill Selsom, a member of the Springfield Masonic community. Bill, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I can, Scott. Prior to coming to Springfield about 4.5 years ago, I had lived in a golf course condominium community on the northeast side of Columbus for about 40 years. During which time I owned an association management government affairs firm when we represented a number of small associations before the Ohio General Assembly and the agencies of state government. Yes, I was a lobbyist.
And you admit it.
I admit that. During those years, I was also very active in the Shrine in Columbus and had the privilege of being potentate of the Aladdin Shriners in 1993. I also had the great opportunity to be on the Board of Governors of the Lexington Shriners Hospital, and I am currently an emeritus member, a life emeritus member of the Shriners International Imperial Council, where I currently serve as chairman of the Dispensations and Charters Committee, as well as being the Imperial Parliamentarian.
So you've had a busy life.
I've had a very enjoyable and very challenging life.
So how did you end up at the Springfield Masonic community?
To be very honest with you, it was an accident.
Wow, really? Tell me about that.
My cousin came to visit me. She brought her 2 cats with her. She was getting ready to go home. We were putting the cats in the car. I had taken one cat out and put it in the car, and she was picking up the other one to put it in the carrier, and she fell and broke her hip.
Wow.
She ended up having to have a hip replacement and was consequently in rehab in the Columbus area for a number of weeks.
Okay.
She was in a rehab facility out in Dublin and was talking to one of the other patients, and the other patient mentioned that she was moving to the Springfield Masonic community, the Ohio Masonic Home. My cousin's husband had been master of a lodge in Cleveland.
Okay.
I, of course, had been very active with the Masonic fraternity and had visited Springfield a number of times, but it had been about 20, 25 years since I'd been here. But after having talked with that young lady, we decided we probably ought to come over and visit, and we did.
Okay.
After visiting and seeing what they had, the Masonic community had evolved, how it had developed, and what I had looked at in other facilities, I said, this is a place that I think I want to go. I eventually, or very frequently, submitted my application to be considered here.
Have you looked at other facilities? Can you give us a kind of a feel for, if you looked at other facilities, what that process was like and where you started?
I looked at a number of other facilities in the Columbus market, both those that had a buy-in as well as those that were monthly rental. There were a number of things to look at. First of all, what type of community was it? Was it strictly an apartment community, an institutional living community, or did they have villas as we have at SMC? Very few of them had villas at that time. They were just building in the villa market. The places where they had monthly rental activities, a lot of them had independent living and assisted living side by side, which made it in my opinion, a very uncomfortable relationship.
So you went from entrance fees to all kinds of arrangements.
And when you talked about buy-ins would run into hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And those are refundable? A lot of those
Some
are
of them
refundable?
are, well, depending on how you buy in.
Okay.
If you buy in one way, it depreciates each month over 50 months until there's no equity there.
Okay.
If you buy it another way, then you have 80% of it there at the time of your demise.
That's called a
But
refundable, I think, right?
When you buy in that way, the price at one level is different than the price at the other. If you buy in for the equity diminishing, say it's $200,000. If you want an equity at the time of your demise, it's $260,000.
Okay.
So and of course, the facilities want to know that you have the resources to meet those demands.
So what questions did they ask you when you were looking at these facilities, and what
they
questions?
They want to know what your financial status was.
Okay.
I had looked at and I had acquired a long-term insurance policy.
Okay.
At the time that I had to place my mother in a similar facility back many years ago. When I told them that, immediately I was a candidate for them because they knew that I had at least some background and some resources to cover my expenses for a number of years to come.
Okay. So what advice would you give someone that's going out and looking around at a facility and trying to figure out what senior community to look at, what financial arrangement? What would you tell somebody looking for a community like ours?
First of all, I'd tell people to look at the activities that the community provides. How is it structured? Is it an institutional living facility or is it an independent living community?
What do you mean by institutional?
More like a dormitory.
Okay.
Living in a dormitory, an apartment arrangement. Yes, nothing wrong with that. I've lived there and I will probably live there again. But by the same token, do you want to move there immediately?
Gotcha. Okay.
Moving into the condominium that I have at SMC is almost like living where I did at my condominium in Columbus. I had 1,800 square feet with a detached garage. Here I have 1,500 square feet with an attached garage. What's the big difference?
Right. What would you tell someone else then?
You also want to look at the activities that they provide.
Okay.
And how those activities are structured. What type of meal service do they provide? Is it scheduled to meal times? Is it a limited menu? Is it a cafeteria? Is it a restaurant type menu as we have at SMC? There are many things that you're going to find in difference. You're also going to find that the way they maintain their properties are going to be very different. I looked at one facility where they had tablecloths on the table that hadn't been ironed for 3 months. You got obvious. And you want to look at those type of things. How do you want to live?
Pay attention to the details, look for maintenance.
You need to pay attention to those details.
Okay.
You need to try and talk to someone who has lived there if you can.
Okay.
But even then, understand if the person trying to get you to move in recommends you talk to someone, be a little leery of that because they're going to recommend you talk to someone they know is going to say the right things.
Right.
And that's natural. It's marketing.
Right. But in our case, you probably just go visit and have lunch and dinner and see it for yourself, right?
That's right. You're better off to do it that way.
Well, Bill, thanks a lot for joining me. Very much appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and visit with us for a little while.
Good to see you. Thanks
you as well.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Thank you. I will be joined by Debbie Pierce, another community member at Springfield Masonic Community when we come back, who will share her personal journey of moving to our facility. We'll be right back.
Good morning, Faye.
Hi, John. Come and look at this.
Are you on those filters again?
Yep.
At Springfield Masonic Community, you're more than just a job title. To start your rewarding career, visit us at ohiomasonichome.org today.
I'm going to give Mom a call at the Springfield Masonic Community and see how she's settling in. Okay, bye.
Darn kids.
"36 missed calls. I've got to call my daughter. Will you take me home?"
Springfield Masonic Community, where lifestyle sparks new beginnings.
Welcome back to Senior Living Today. I'm your host, Scott Buchanan, and I'm joined by Deb Pierce, a Springfield community member of the Springfield Masonic Community. Deb, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on the show.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born in Springfield. I'm not going to tell you what year.
1962.
Yeah, don't I wish. Graduated from Springfield North High.
Oh, wow.
Went to college 2.5 years. And in my summers in between college, I started working at an area bank. After the 2.5 years of college, I went home that night, told my parents at dinner I didn't want to teach school, didn't want to go back to college. I loved working at the bank. And there's this guy.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
There was this guy.
There was this guy. So 38 years later, I retired from the bank. And that guy and I were married for 42.5 happy years.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow, so how did you end up at the Springfield Masonic Community? You had a long past with the bank and a husband, and that's amazing.
Yes, my mother moved to Masonic when she needed some more assistance than what I could provide for her.
Okay.
I tried to help her. She didn't want anyone to come into her home except me. So it was apparent that we needed something a little more than that. So the only place she wanted to go was Springfield Masonic.
Okay.
So made the appointment, went through the application process. She moved in. She was there for 3 years.
Wow.
It was wonderful. I spent 5-6 hours a day there with her.
Okay.
And got to know the community, the people. And so that pretty much set my mind where I would be. When my mother passed, my husband and I decided that we needed to have a plan in place.
Okay.
We didn't have children, and so we sat down and decided that we needed to go through the what ifs.
Okay.
And my husband said if he went before I did, he wanted me to come to Springfield Masonic. He knew I felt comfortable there.
Okay.
And get either an apartment, villa, whatever I needed at the time.
Okay.
And felt that my needs could be met as I progressed.
So did you look at any other facilities at all, or?
I had a girlfriend that said, you've got to go try one other one just to take a look at it, just to compare. So
what
yes.
did you, how did that process look? What did you do to look at this other facility?
I made the appointment. The only question they asked me was, what do you need? And I said, well, independent living. So they didn't really go into too much about their facilities and everything. And when we left, my girlfriend said, that's not the place for you. You know where you're going to be. And
Yeah,
I
so
said,
in your
yes.
case, you didn't have to look a whole lot. You kind of already knew what you were looking for and where you wanted to go.
Yes.
Because you've had a lot of history with the organization.
Yes.
So what would you tell someone else who's looking? What should they be thinking about ahead of time before they look for a facility like the Springfield Masonic Community?
Well, I think the main thing you need to look at is the grounds, how they're maintained, the buildings. And the one thing that I always said was when I was there with Mother and when I went on my tour was the interaction between the employees and the staff and the residents and the residents.
Like the culture of the organization?
Right,
Okay.
and how friendly people were. Everybody called everybody by their first name, which I thought was great.
Okay.
So it was comfortable.
So as you were visiting and looking at that, is there anything that stuck out? I mean, you had a lot of history with the organization. When you made your plans financially, and your husband and you made your plans, what did that look like? How did you figure out what you were going to do there?
That's hard.
That's hard.
Because you just don't know. When you're in your 30s and 40s, you just don't.
Oh, you started early then.
We started early.
You started early. You were an early planner.
Working in the bank, you know, you realize
that's
that
right. You're working
saving,
in the bank.
Saving credit was important. So, yeah, we started to save early, and fortunately, we had good employers that had retirement plans. They didn't have IRAs and all of that when we first started, so it was just plain savings.
Just plain savings account, huh?
Yeah,
And you knew your way around that one.
I knew my way around that, yes. So once they came up with the IRAs, we started to do that. Good financial advice from brokers, and
well, thanks.
So that helped.
Thanks a bunch. You've really covered a lot of ground. So you really had a plan ahead of time, and I don't think everybody does that. So would your advice be to really start looking at that before you hit that age?
Yes.
And really have a plan for what you're going to do?
Yes.
Okay.
I lost my husband suddenly 2.5 years ago, and having the plan made it so much easier for me. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. I really value your insight, and love working with you every day like we do and having so much fun.
Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
When we come back, I'll be joined by our final guest, Laura Bentley, who's the Corporate Director of Human Resources for the Ohio Masonic Home. Laura's going to share her perspective as an adult child working with her father to find the perfect senior living community for him. Please stay with us.
Hi, Kelly. What's for lunch today?
We have our lentil soup, we have our corn chowder, and we have our spicy buffalo chicken meatball sub.
Hey, what do you think about that guy named Dave over there?
Oh, he's a catch. You should totally go for it.
Think I ought to get his digits?
Absolutely.
At Springfield Masonic Community, you're more than just a job title. To start your rewarding career, visit us at ohiomasonichome.org today.
All right, Mary, we're gonna pick out your outfit for today, okay? You have this one. Do you like this one?
No, I want something hotter than that.
I think you're really gonna like this one, though.
Oh, that's the one. I like that.
All right, then we're gonna work on your hair next.
At Springfield Masonic Community, you're more than just a job title. To start your rewarding career, visit us at ohiomasonichome.org today.
Welcome back to Senior Living Today. I'm your host, Scott Buchanan, and I'm now joined by Laura Bentley, Corporate Director of Human Resources for the Ohio Masonic Home. Laura, thank you for being here today.
It is a pleasure to be here, Scott.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have been with the Ohio Masonic Home for almost 9 years, if you can believe that.
Wow.
It's not June. It'll be 9 years in June. And so I'm the Corporate Director of Human Resources, so that kind of translates into me being responsible for really all the human resources functions within the entire organization. So I oversee the staff that does the recruiting and does, benefits and compensation and policies and procedures, and have to tell you, it's one of the best decisions I ever made. Every morning I wake up and tell myself, I'm smart. I made a great decision coming here. It's lovely.
Thank you for making that decision.
Thank you.
So as an adult child looking for a senior living facility for your father, can you kind of walk us through what that was like and where you started?
Sure. My dad is blessed with 4 daughters, and so the time came.
You stressed blessed.
I did stress blessed with 4 daughters, and he had an independent home in Yellow Springs, Ohio, and he had, he was 80 years old, and we began to have a conversation about maybe moving to a senior living community. And so my sisters and I really kind of asked the why questions. Why are you interested in maybe moving to a senior living community? So we really had a long conversation about what was in his life that needed to change, that maybe prompted this decision to start to look. And a lot of it had to do with maintenance-free living. I mean, when you're 80 years old and you own your own home and the air conditioning unit breaks or the heater breaks, then you're responsible for paying for it and finding a vendor to come in and take care of it. And it was, cutting the grass and shoveling the snow. And at 80 years old, just accessibility, not going up and down stairs in a home and things like that. So that really kind of prompted the decision to start to look for a senior living community.
So it's prompted more on just, maybe I don't want to do these things anymore. I want to go somewhere where that's done and I can enjoy life a little bit.
Absolutely.
So what was that process like in preparing for that, as far as what was it like in preparing to move to a facility?
Sure.
What did he need to be what did you need to be thinking about? What did he need to think about?
Sure, absolutely. We wanted to make sure that we made the right decision for the right location for us. So Dad, now obviously, I work for the Ohio Masonic Home and sit on Springfield Masonic campus, so I'm a little biased. But you know, Dad did look. I mean, he went to senior living communities in Xenia. He went to senior living communities in Centerville, and some of them were lovely facilities. But we had to really take stock about what it was that he was looking for. So when he came to Springfield, Brian Claiborne, who was responsible kind of for our sales and touring experience, was fantastic. He asked a lot of questions of Dad, you know, about what he was looking for. And when it came down to it, after we did the comparisons of amenities, we did the comparisons of just the beauty of the Springfield Masonic campus. I mean, you're not in a standalone building in a parking lot. You've got hundreds of rolling acres of green space and amenities and transportation and security, and quite honestly, the affordability of Springfield Masonic community were all things that we looked at when we made that decision to move.
So lots of detail to pay attention to. So, and these other facilities and us, how did you, as far as visiting and touring, what questions did they ask you and what did you ask them? What kind of things would you tell the audience that we're talking to were very important to pay attention to?
Sure, absolutely. Well, you know, I think a lot of it is, again, the why question, and that gets you to the where question, or the where answer. A lot of times you need to understand why a person is looking to move. So I think about what Dad was looking for, again, the maintenance-free lifestyle. If I were telling someone else who was contemplating looking at something for their parents, you know, what are they looking for? Has Dad recently lost his wife and now maybe he needs some social interaction? You know, does Dad look, my father, for example, loves live music. So one of the things that we love about Springfield Masonic community is the live concerts, when we have the concert pianist that comes to the library to entertain, or the live music. So we asked a lot of questions about amenities. We asked a lot of questions about the costs for those locations, because ultimately you have to be fiscally ready to make this decision. It's a big decision
so how
to
does,
move.
in your case, how did your father prepare for that financially?
Well, you know, I will be very honest with you. My father's a very fiscal conservative. So he was prepared financially to make this move. So we were very lucky in that regard. But one thing that I would strongly recommend, and that I kind of woke up to, was that you really need to have a full understanding of your financial picture. So when we met with Brian, they were asking questions about income. They were asking questions about pensions and social securities and what insurance you had. Did you have independent living? For example, did you have assisted living insurance, and what does it cover? You know, when it came down to the nitty gritty of things, you know, they wanted to know living wills and power of attorneys and all of those things. So I think if you are a child who might potentially be helping your parents as well, you want to ask, are there assets that can be liquidated in order to help subsidize the cost of living in a senior living community? So you have to be prepared financially, and you have to kind of have your ducks in a row so that you fully understand what your financial picture is, but then you have to ask the questions of the senior living community of what their financial requirements are. So what is the cost to live? Are there amenities that might cost extra dollars? So is there a dining plan that might have money attached to it, or transportation, or amenities?
Lots of details.
A lot of details.
So with all that, what advice would you give someone else who's looking for a senior living community? Yours is a little unique because maybe Laura works there, and
I'm
if
slightly
Dad's
biased.
right down the hall,
Literally,
that's
it's a 5-minute walk to his apartment. So,
what advice would you give, given the experience you had, to someone else looking to place their parent in a situation where they may be moving into assisted living or independent living?
Sure,
what would that look like?
I would say you probably want to take into account, again, the whys of why they're looking to live. To move. So you want to make sure that you're understanding fully what their needs are. You need to ask all kinds of questions about maybe his or her personal communities as well. I mean, my father grew up in this area. He knows this area. We've lived here for years. So he's got friends. He's got a church he goes to. He's got social groups that he's part of. So you've got to ask yourself, do we want to find a living community that's close physically for Dad, so he's not uprooting himself from everything he knows? Conversely, you kind of got to ask yourself, I have the luxury of being literally 5 minutes away from Dad, but you have to ask yourself, do you want to put your parent in a senior living community that is 20 minutes away drive for you, 5 hours away, an airline flight away? So you want to figure out geography, where you want to put that person. And ultimately, what I would tell everybody is that you want to go and see the places, you want to tour, you want to talk to other residents. Residents are very honest.
Right.
Honest. You know this.
I
Residents
do.
are very honest
Brutally.
about what they like and what they don't like, and that which they think are really the benefits of living in Springfield Masonic community or one of our other communities. So talk to residents. The employees that you pass in the hallways, make sure you're talking to them and, why do you like to work here? What is, what speaks to you
what
about?
keeps you coming back, right?
Exactly, absolutely. And I think if you ask all of those questions and you get your answers, you can make a really wonderful decision, because ultimately we want our parents and potentially ourselves at some point to live in a community.
We're looking at our future, right?
Exactly, to live in a community that's vibrant and loving.
So Laura, where did your dad end up moving? Did he end up in independent living, assisted living? What decision did he end up making?
Sure. Brian was great and showed Dad. My father's an independent living, and so Brian showed him both the villas as well as the Scottish Rite apartments. And when we did kind of a side-by-side comparison, the Scottish Rite apartments really were a great fit for my father, just simply because of everything that's included, the housekeeping. I love my father, but cooking is not a strength of his at all. So the fact that there's the financial aspect of food credits and things like that that can use in the lovely dining facilities. So he ended up in independent living. But what I really love about the Springfield Masonic community, and really all of our campuses, is what I would call the continuum of care. That while my father right now at 83 is fantastic and independent, there may come a day where maybe he needs to move to an assisted living apartment, and maybe over time, maybe even into skilled nursing. And the beauty of Springfield and Western Reserve and Browning Masonic community is that these communities have all of those levels. So, my father's now got a family at Springfield Masonic community, so now we would never have to pick him up and take him to a different facility, because we have all of those things available right there on the campus.
So he's in a good spot.
He's in a wonderful spot, yes.
So what advice would you give another family looking to place their loved one or their family member into a facility like the Springfield Masonic community? What would you tell them to look for? What advice would you give them?
Sure. I would, again, ask the why question. Why is it that that your parent or your loved one is contemplating moving to a senior living community? Because if you answer those why questions, then you'll find the where questions. So you have to determine, is it amenities? Is it health-related reasons that they're looking for a facility? Is it the social interaction? Those types of things. I would also say that you definitely want to take into account their own community. My father has great friends that he's had for years and years, and so to uproot him and move him some way away from those communities that he's familiar with. So if your parent is involved in bridge club on Friday nights and a church that they go to and friends that they're in touch with, you probably want to keep maybe a community that's close by that knit family that they have. You also want to give thought to geography for yourself. I've got an incredible luxury with my dad literally being a 5-minute walk away from exactly a 5-minute walk for me. Not everyone has that luxury, but you have to think, okay, do I want mom to be a half an hour away? Do I want mom to be a 2-hour car ride away? Am I okay with a 2-hour flight away from mom? So maybe think about geography. But what I would also give advice is to go and talk to people. Because if you talk to a salesperson, they're going to tell you that everything's lovely and wonderful and magical.
Great.
Absolutely. But if you go out and you talk to other residents, when you're taking the tour, you talk to the residents and the employees that you encounter in the hallways, maybe go to dinner, maybe take lunch in the dining room, so that you can actually talk to people who are kind of more in tune with the inner workings of the community. And then I think you can make a really good decision if you factor all of those things in. Happy residents, happy employees usually mean a very happy place for your parents to
Bill
live.
said it earlier. He says, don't talk to the one the salesperson tells you to go interview.
Exactly.
Go for yourself and see how that works.
Absolutely. Just talk to people, because as you and I both know, our residents like to be very honest about things, and they will tell you exactly how they feel. So when you're talking to someone, they're going to tell you the good, they're going to tell you the areas where maybe there's a little opportunity, but you're going to get an honest response. And then I
it's
think
real,
you can
right?
Exactly.
It becomes real.
And you can make a very, very good decision at that point in time. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Thanks for being here.
It was lovely. Thank you.
I also want to thank our viewers for tuning in today. Be sure to check out our show each month as we take a closer look at senior living today and answer the questions you want to know. If you have any specific questions you'd like to see answered on this show, send your questions to omhmarketing@ohiomasonichome.org or give us a call at 937-505-8405. You can also check us out on Facebook at our Facebook page to see the current events and happenings at all 3 of our campuses. If you'd like more information on campus living options for you or your loved one, give us a call at the number on the screen. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to having you back next month, where we will continue discussing all the financial questions you may have and how to handle choosing the appropriate senior living community when you're in the midst of a family crisis. Thanks for watching.